Hi there, welcome back to another episode of Sweet Donut Fishing. In today's video, I'm preparing for an upcoming tournament at Budds Beach on the Gold Coast tomorrow, and I'm just going to run through a couple of the steps and things I do before preparing for a tournament. So the first thing I'd do is I'd look at the conditions and look at the tide, look at the wind, and assess what type of fishing I'm going to do, and ideally have a pre-fish. So I've already had a pre-fish. It's actually my local area where I fish the most of, so I feel quite comfortable. And I know what's going to work, or what I think, what has been working, which I predict should then again work if come tomorrow. So I've looked at the conditions and I've assessed what lures I want to use and what type of fishing I want to do. So I'm going to go with a mix between hard bodies and soft plastics. I think hard bodies are the go-to and they've been fishing really well, but soft plastics are my favorite type of fishing and what I feel most comfortable with, so I can't completely ignore them. Biggest tips I'll give for anyone entering a fishing comp: don't try and fish something you don't usually fish. So don't grab out a new lure you've never used before because someone said it's going to work. Don't try a new technique. Don't try a new hook. Don't change anything. Fish with what you are most comfortable with. The comp I'm entering in, you just got to, it's your 5 biggest fish and it's combined weight. So I know that I just need to catch 5 big fish ideally, but I'm going to go for volume. I'm going to aim for in the 7 hours to try and catch, I know, somewhere between 30 and 40 fish. And then from that, I'm hoping there's going to be at least 5 big ones in that. That's my tactic. Some people just only target big fish and they sometimes fall short because they go to more treacherous conditions or tougher areas chasing the bigger fish, and they end up not coming home with enough fish.
So the next tip I'd give is to, once you've assessed the condition, you pick your lures, then you need to make a plan based on the time and the tides to where you want to fish and what you want to do. So what I've done is, you can see here I've got Willy Weather app, and I've looked at the area where I'm going to be fishing and the high and low tides. High tide's going to be the primo time, so that's where you want to pick the best spot where you think the best fish are going to be and aim to be there at high tide. And then either side of that, I guess you're going to be going for spots where you think you might be able to pick up a few extras. But in general, if it's 7 hours worth of fishing, there might only be the 1 hour window where it's absolutely perfect. So you might catch all your fish in that one window, but you want to try and aim to find a way you can consistently catch throughout the day. So looking at this, the comp I'm entering, it starts at 6 o'clock and it finishes at 1 o'clock. So looking at this, the high tide is going to be at 8:04. So the ideal time for fishing is going to be about 30 minutes either side of that. So from 7:30 to about 8:30. So I'm going to look at the map in a minute and pick the best spot to fish during that time. And what I'm going to do is I'm looking at the wind. The wind's actually quite low, so it's not going to be a big deal. But I do know that the wind and the tide are going to be matching up before high tide, and then after tide they're going to be the opposite. So in the morning, the first part of the fishing before high tide, the tide's going to be moving from the ocean into the canals, and where I'm fishing, the canals actually run basically north to south, and the wind is going northwest, so the wind will be going the same direction as the tide will be going as it's rising. So the water, it'll be running fast-ish, but not too bad because the wind's quite low. So I'm going to, based on that, knowing that the fish follow the tide, you want to, when the tide's low, be closest to the ocean, and then as it rises, you want to head more into the canals, and then when it starts to come back out, follow. So I'm going to move closest to here on the Gold Coast to the Seaway at the beginning. Going to move to basically Budds Beach, which is the primo spot at 8:30 between 7:30 and 8:30 when the tide's changing. That's where I want to aim to be there. And then after that, I'm going to head a bit further up the canals and then head back to the Seaway. So I'm going to be following the tide up and down. So that's
I'm
my
gonna run
plan.
with,
So if I get up the
I've
map,
been advertising heavily on my Instagram because it's my favourite lure at the moment.
this is the map, and I've worked out my times. So I'm starting
Silver Wolf. This thing's
at the
been
little,
going off.
there's a little
And then I'm
dot
also gonna
there.
run with
That's where we
same
start
lure,
at Bud's Beach
but
near
in the
Chevron
tin
Island.
prawn.
I'm aiming to
I
from
believe
6 to
this is the new
7:30
packaging.
fish in
This
the
is
yellow,
black.
because that's where
But
the
the
tide
same.
will be the highest, because
But what
it's
I'm
the
gonna do is
ocean
I'm
is
gonna
up
tune them
north
differently.
heading
So
inwards.
I'm gonna do a video
Then
on
I'm
tuning
going to
if those
fish
don't know what that means.
like
Basically,
close, like
you're going to bend the lure
almost
in a
where the
way
blue
so
and the
it
green
swims in a
meet during the
So
like as it's
I'm gonna
clearing
tune
prime
these opposite
time.
ways. I'm
And
gonna
then you can
tune
see the red.
silver
I'm going to move to the
right
red, which is the
and the
furthest
tin
part of the
prawn to the
canal.
left.
I'm going to spend
So
the
what that
most
will
time
mean
there
is when
as
I go
it's
up
gone
and fish,
high tide, and then it's rushing
I'm
out. And then I'm going to
fill the
move to the
canal,
blue for the
and then
last
I've
part of
got
the day.
pontoon on
That
the
plan
left,
may
and
change,
I
or the
want
spots I fish. If I'm in
the
one
lure
spot and it's going
cut
off,
in
I'm
on
going
the
to
left.
stay there.
I'm
But the
gonna
aim
grab
is
the
to,
lure that I tune where I bend
when
it
the
to the
tide's
left.
low,
I'm
move
gonna
towards the
cast a
seaway.
meter to
As the
the
tide
right side
rises,
of
move away from the seaway, and then it starts to
pontoon.
lower
I'm
again.
gonna
Follow it.
pull
So I'm just going
hard
to be
left
following what the
and
fish do.
wind, and that's going to make it cut back in. Where if I don't tune it, it'll just come straight to me. Where I tune it, it cuts in, and then also as I then roll it straight, because it's tuned, it'll go. I'll swim to the left, and it'll bang against the pontoon. If you weren't fishing against structure, you wouldn't want to tune it because then it will go sideways and be weird. But in this case, it's going to be perfect. It's just going to bang, 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 make heaps of noise. Alternatively, if it's on the right, the structure I'm aiming for, I'm going to use the lure to the right. I'm going to tune, I'm going to pull it to the right, bang, bang, bang. And then that will allow me to hit the front and the sides, two sides of any pontoon. So that keeps me covered. So I'm going to roll with those two. So I'm going to have 5 rods set up. So I'm going to have 2 with those. The other trusty lure here that works well on the Gold Coast is the cranker crab. I'm going to go with the olive colour. That's been my most successful colour. This is a lure that's been hit and miss for me, but given that at some point during the day there's going to be some deep water that's a bit rough, I'm going to chuck this in, retrieve it quick, get the treble hooks kind of like flowing around like a crab, and I might snag a big fish. I wouldn't say I catch a lot of fish on this, but I've caught all my biggest fish on this, so I can't not chuck it in, just in case. Being a tournament, chuck it in, you know, it might snag me one big fish, and that might be the one that wins it for me. Other than that, I'm going to be running with 2 rods that are going to have a hidden weight, so 1/50th an ounce. I'll put a picture of this up. Little hidden weight jig head. I'm going to roll with 2 different types of soft plastics on it. This one, I'm trying something different. I've used this a couple of times and with some success, but I'm going to chuck it in. I've added a little tracer hook or a stinger hook to it, so it's just an extra bit of leader and then this secondary hook, just in case the fish miss it or don't quite get the hook, they might catch the second one. The reason I'm doing that is when I fished this area this week, I had lots of fish grab the end of the lure and pull the soft lure either off or hold onto it, and they ran with it, and as soon as I try to set the hook, they let go. So I'm hoping with that extra little bit of hook, they might catch that one, the stinger hook, if they miss the main one. So I'm going to have a few of those set up. So regarding the soft plastics I'm going to be using, I'm going to be having these 2. So this is my trusty, absolute favorite Berkeley Gulp Crabbies in the 2.5 inch, not the 2 inch. Do not get the 2 inch, get the 2.5 inch. Very hard to find, I'll give you that much. You go to a shop, they're usually sold out. That goes to show how good they are. This is my trusty, that is going to be the go-to soft plastic. And then I'm also going to chuck in the Eco Gear Aqua Prawn in the salt and pepper. I've been testing this out. It's been going all right so far. I haven't tested in good conditions, but Sunday is going to be absolutely ideal. So that's why I'm going to see what it's like, and I'll be able to share the results with you. The reason I'm going to use both is I have enough rods to do it. I'm going to set them up identical, and one, I'll be able to compare them. If this one's biting, then I will just fish with that. If it's half and half, then I'll swap between. Or if this one's biting, I'll give that one the flick. So I like to give 2 options. If you have enough rods, go for it. If you don't, you might have to swap. But I'm going to have both set up, and I'm going to be casting one after another at different pontoons to see what happens. I'm really hopeful that this is going to work. From the results I've seen, I like the white color. I like that I can see it in the water. So hoping that with some clear water on the weekend, this is going to be the go-to. This weekend I'm going to use brand new lures, but if I was going to use some older ones that have been used before, I'd replace the hooks. So I'd use split ring pliers and a normal set of pliers. I'd get myself a set of new treble hooks. Depending on the lure size or the fish you're after, that's going to change. I'm got the size 14. The bigger the number, the smaller the size. So I've got size 14 treble hooks. I'll use a little tiny eyelet. I'll attach that, put fresh ones, because you don't want to drop a fish because you're using old rusted hooks. Put fresh ones on. They're not too expensive. I'm using the BKK fangs. Pick these up at BCF for about $12.95. $12.95 for a pack of 8 and the size 14. Instead, I'm going to have 5 rods. So I've got my 5 Shimano Raider rack rods. 4 of them are just the rack Raider, and 1 is the finesse brim rod, which is about a foot longer. I'm going to use that for I carry that just in case I want to do any surface lures. I don't think they're going to work, but I will carry, obviously in my underneath here, I've got all my lures. I'll have a surface lure. So I'm going to have that just in case, because I prefer that extra length for a surface lure, because I just feel it's a bit more finessey and I can pop it and work it. So I'll carry that one just in case. If not, it's still a good all-round rod I can use for all other purposes. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sweet Donuts Fishing. I hope you enjoyed looking at my setup for the tournament tomorrow. Maybe I've given you some decent tips for helping you in future tournaments. Maybe you like my setup. If you do, I've got a video showing you exactly how I set my rods up. As I said, I'm going to post a video about tuning the lures, because I did mention that, and I remember when I was first learning to fish, I did not find too many useful videos on it, so that's something I'm going to add. But thanks for tuning in. I'll share some footage and my results of how I go tomorrow. Fingers crossed I might be able to get the W. See you later.